So Francesca Hong is a Democratic Socialist of America, and she wants to be governor of Wisconsin. I saw a clip recently on YouTube of her talking about tipping and how it was racist and deeply rooted in white supremacy. Personally, I don't know anything about tipping. Besides, someone does a good job, provides good service, delivers your pizza, details your car, full service people, holidays. You do a good job, that you might get a little extra money. DoorDash, look at DoorDash. People tip every single day. They racist? Do they feel racist for tipping? Don't think so. I've never felt racist for giving my money away. I've never thought, man, why did I tip $5? I'm such a racist. My God. No, I never felt like that. And I even asked people, and they all said no. No one has ever felt racist tipping or leaving money for people. So Francesca Hong was born November 4th, 1988, in Madison, Wisconsin, to Korean immigrant parents. Why do you think they came to America? To get away from whatever the hell was going on where they were, in whatever country it was. I don't know if they came from Korea or where they came from, but obviously it was bad and they wanted to come to America. So they got here. They got here to America and they gave birth to you, and you want to bring the same crap that they left to America. She was going to college and she was taking Spanish and journalism to become a sports journalist. That's a great combination for sports journalism. But she dropped out and got a dishwasher job. She didn't want to be a sports journalist anymore because that sounds too fun, maybe. Maybe she wanted to live a life of misery being a dishwasher in a restaurant. And then, as usual, you move up to line cook and then a sous chef. Then she became the executive chef. The restaurant she was working at closed. Then she opened Morris Ramen, and that restaurant closed. But it was open for 8 years, which is a long time for a family-owned, not corporate restaurant. That's actually a decent run for, and especially through COVID. When she was younger, she had a mental health crisis at the age of 18 and was hospitalized for a week with bipolar disorder. That's right. She's a Democratic Socialist bipolar disorder running for governor of a state. Imagine if we have a bipolar president, a Democratic Socialist bipolar president. What would that be like? I'm not sure. That scares me to think about it, though. Here's her talking about tipping, and she's talking about the industry because she was a cook. She worked in restaurants. That's what she means when she says the industry.
That is in the service industry. We are finally having this conversation about, how our industry really did come from.
What conversation are you having? Oh man, I hope these people don't feel racist giving my employees money. Man, like, what are you talking about? This has not been a thing. No one. I was in a kitchen for 8 years. I worked in numerous different restaurants. Not once did I ever go to work thinking, "Oh man, I hope these people tip us today and they don't feel too racist and like not give us any money." No one ever has ever thought that ever.
And kind of is rooted in white supremacy. That tipping in itself.
I've never felt like a white supremacist going to work.
If we look at the history of tipping and how racist it is and how it has kept wages low for Black people for a very long time, and if you look at tipping now, how different.
I like how all they except her, she's the only one, but the other three start looking around like, talking about Black people for what do you what?
The scales are in terms of who receives higher percentages of tips over other folks.
I'm not sure what she's talking about there with higher percentage of tips going to certain people. Here in California, there's tip pooling. I don't know if it's still a thing, but it was. All the tips just got collected and then distributed equally amongst everybody, unless you were a kitchen manager, a sous chef, a general manager, a floor manager, front of house manager. If you had management pay, you didn't get tips. At least that's how it was at a few places I worked. I don't know about everyone. So tipping started in Europe, and the people who were rich, the upper echelon, would give money to servants and people because they could. They had the money to do so, and it would make them look good. They could also show off their status as a rich person. But in the United States, after the Civil War, the American service industry was in the middle of a massive transformation. Formerly enslaved people were entering the workforce in large numbers, particularly in two industries: restaurants and railroads. Employers in both sectors found a convenient way to avoid paying these workers a living wage. They pointed to tips. This is the same thing happening today, like I just said, with the tip pulling. There used to be signs, like before COVID, I think during Trump's first term, when the tip pulling started, there were signs on restaurants saying $24 an hour, and there would be an asterisk because you weren't actually making 24 an hour. It wasn't a guaranteed 24 an hour. You're making minimum wage, but with the tips, you should be making 24 an hour. It's the same thing happening today. The Pullman Company, which operated sleeping cars on railroads, became one of the most prominent examples. The company hired almost exclusively black men as porters and paid them wages so low that survival depended entirely on tips from passengers. Pullman actively leaned into the dynamic, encouraging passengers to see tipping as the norm, positioning their porters as servants rather than employees deserving fair compensation. Restaurant owners followed a similar playbook. Tipping wasn't framed as a bonus, it was structured as a substitute for wages. That's exactly what's happening today. The result was a system where employers could externalize labor costs onto customers, while workers, particularly black workers, were left economically vulnerable and dependent on the goodwill of strangers. So at least that's not happening anymore. But we all know the start of America. It was a different time back then. A lot of different things were going on. But this basic premise is still happening today. Businesses, even places that don't get tips or have never gotten tips, had jars out at one time, maybe they still do, asking for tips. Like, why am I going to tip you? You work at a bookstore. I'm not going to tip you. You didn't do anything. People just asking for money. There's also the federal minimum wage, which currently is $7.25 an hour. It hasn't changed since 2009. These people need your tips. And I remember when I was a kid, my dad told me, I asked, why are you giving the person money? Or why do you tip waiters and waitresses? And he says, because that's just how it is. But in some places, the federal minimum wage, I think back in the 90s, it was like $2 and something cents. So they really rely on tips to make their paychecks because you're not doing very much with $7.25 an hour as a waiter or a waitress. It's just not going to happen. So if you know someone on federal minimum wage, tip them. They need the money. She also wanted to abolish the police, like literally get rid of the police in Wisconsin. She's changed her tune. She's saying something different now, that she wants to fund the police and give them the resources they need, but also hold police accountable that don't follow the law. But she did want to get rid of the police completely and take the funding that was for police departments and give it to social services and care communities and all this crap. Once criminals find out that the police are gone, it's going to be a field day. There is going to be crime everywhere. I don't know why she thinks, or anybody thinks, that getting rid of the police is going to be a good thing. Can someone explain to me, if you're a liberal Democrat watching this right now, why do you think getting rid of the police is going to be a good thing? Please tell me. I want to know your logic, your way of thinking, because I don't understand. If there's no one there to stop the bad guys and your Second Amendment rights and freedoms are being infringed on by the same people who took the police away, how are you going to defend yourself? Criminals don't follow the law. Just because you say no more handguns doesn't mean criminals aren't going to go get them anyway. And then what are you going to do when you don't have one and someone ends up in your living room? Are you going to throw a baseball at them? You're going to be dead. Along with that, she hasn't said very much about the Second Amendment, as far as I know. This is all I really found. But she does say that she'll call a special legislative session to establish evidence-based, firm but fair guidelines that are good for Wisconsinites. Wisconsin is a hunting state. They have firearms there. Like, background checks are normal. I don't like red flag laws. She says the stuff that she's for, responsible gun policies supported by most Americans, including the majority of gun owners. Normally what they say, but they don't actually know what they're talking about. They don't know what the gun owners are thinking. They don't even talk to gun owners. How do you know what we're thinking? Safe gun storage policies probably means you have to keep your guns locked up at all times. Even if you're home, they have to be locked up in a safe. I don't know. Do what you want. Police aren't in your house all the time, so you have time to put them away if someone shows up. It's weird she wants to get rid of the police, start care communities and all that, but she hasn't said she wants to take away your Second Amendment rights. That usually goes hand in hand. Like look at California. They want to defund the police, send out counselors to incidents that are happening, domestic cases, not police, but counselors, people with notebooks, and you want them to talk. But then they don't want you to have a firearm either. So you don't want the police to go protect people, but you can't protect yourself with your constitutional right to keep and bear arms. That's Francesca Hong. I don't know how these people are becoming popular. I'm not sure why this is becoming a thing. Democratic Socialists of America. I don't know if it's a joke, if it's pantomime. It's completely mind-boggling to me. Like I don't know why you'd want to change America from a constitutional republic to a socialist state. Things are going to change. If you guys don't know that, then you got to do a lot of research. I'll let you like read some books, think for yourself, look in the mirror, do something. Anyway, America first. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care. Stay safe.